that. Wow, bro. That's whew, that's good. That's good, man. I want you to talk about the idea, like how you mentioned the point of how you said that you existed on the surface for a very long time. Um, Talk about that, man. I wanted to go a little bit deeper of like what was that journey of you being able to come out of used to being on the surface down into more of a deep, holistic human being. I know that's a very big question, but
No, I gotcha. I gotcha. We could talk. We could get deep. That's what I like, man. I like to get deep. So I think as we grow up in Western society, especially people who grow up in the United States of America, from day one, we're pretty much taught to exist on the surface. We're taught
mm,
to go to college and get a job and pay our bills and save up until we're 65. And then once we've reached the end of our life, we can live for a couple of years,
right.
and that just never really vibed well with me. But I was a product of my environment, and when you're existing with people, the majority of people in the United States of America are existing on the surface, and they're looking for external sources of happiness. They're looking
Mm,
for something or someone to bring it to them. And at times, certain things can bring us temporary happiness. Certain people can. And it's very important to surround yourself, obviously, with your family and your friends. But at the end of the day, it really comes from within. And I
mm,
think in order to get deep into exist beyond the surface, you have to ask yourself some really uncomfortable questions, and you have to dive really deep within yourself. And that's really uncomfortable. And there are times, when you talk deep with people that they start to get uncomfortable and they're like, hey, let's change the subject and stuff like that. But for me, it's always been pretty innate that I wanted to go deep, that I knew there was more. There was something, I didn't really know what it was, but I knew that there was more to life than just working, slaving away, and then living the last years of our life. So I think what really brought it out of me was when I was suicidal and I was abusing Xanax really bad to escape my anxiety and my depression, and really just escaping in whatever methods I could. And it came to
mm,
a point where I felt temporarily happy. When I was high, I felt happy. When I was escaping, watching TV, looking for an external source to make me happy, I was happy at the time, per se, right? What we say is happiness. But then when I came out of it, I'm back to square one. And in fact, my problems are 10 times worse.
mm,
So once I realized that, and I got to the point where it was just there was so much pain and so much agony inside me, so many feelings built up that I was constantly suppressing and trying to escape from. I got to the point that I had no will to live, and I wanted to take my own life. And I took a revolver that was in my closet and I put it to my head. And the last time I had used the gun, it wasn't firing properly and it wasn't really working. And I kind of just, left it up to fate. I said, my problems are so bad, I'm just going to pull the trigger and see what happens. And when I pulled the trigger, something miraculous happened. It was as if I split almost into an alternate timeline, is the way I describe it. And I saw what would have happened if I had taken my own life that night. And I
oh wow.
watched my family and my little sister walk into the room and see what would have happened. And it was like it was almost like an out of body experience where I felt what would have happened if I taken my own life. I felt the pain and the agony and the suffering that I had caused my family and my loved ones around me. And I started almost like beating myself up. I instantly like came back to my body. I was like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? That's so selfish. But then I
Mm,
realized that it was a good thing in a sense, because had I not hit that rock bottom, had I not done that, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't have ever realized. Maybe I would have overdosed. Who knows? The what ifs could go on forever. But I found a lot of good in that situation, because that is what sparked me. It's what made me realize that something had to change. My habits had to change. I had to start thinking differently. I didn't want to live like that forever. I had such a low point that I was fed up and I didn't want any more to do with it. And then slowly started evolving, and that's kind of how my journey started. So to answer your question, I know that was a pretty long answer,
no, no, that's
but
good.
it basically, to the point of suicide, questioning what is life really, is how I got deep. Getting
Wow.
to the point where I said, okay, what if I die? Once I questioned that, once I accepted the fact that I could die at any moment, I had the ability to live every single day.
Mm. Yo, that's good. That right there. And again, for me as a Christian, but also I love other religious texts and how they talk about the philosophy of death because death is imminent, right? Like it's going to happen regardless. But specifically in the book of Ecclesiastes, I think it was chapter 9, where it was just saying that how the king or Solomon people say is that how most people it's meaningless. Like everything around you is meaningless. But the thing is, it's like you can either spend your days or your meaningless days under the sun as something that is going to, be selfish and you're going to be solemn and you're going to be just done, or you can enjoy it. So you can use these days to enjoy your wife, to enjoy to wear the nice clothes, or to live the life that you want, but also make sure you understand the purpose of life is not meant for you to be solely enjoying it for your own selfish gain, but it's to continue to create an impact for other people. It's for you to
Sure.
utilize, like, it's understanding that how short life is. Like we're like a vapor. At any given moment, it can go away. And I think, and it's crazy because I had a conversation with my friend Kenna, a musical artist, and we were talking about the idea of how us, most people in life don't start like, there's that saying by Confucius, people have two lives. And in their second life starts when they realize that they're only going to live once. Or like, and it's sad to say, but sometimes we need a jolt of a near death experience or something of that magnitude to really appreciate the purpose of life and what is needed and what is necessary. And some people it's innate, but I think that people who face that and who are resilient end up making life a little bit more meaningful. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, death is viewed as a bad thing. It has like a negative connotation to it. But you think about the sheer fact that I was suicidal and faced death, and that's what really propelled me to get deep and made me constantly want the happiness and find the happiness. I mean, isn't that a positive then, right? I mean, there's so many, different takes on what death is and what happens after we die. And the bottom line is I believe that none of us really know to the full extent until it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, live it up while you can, because like you're saying, you start to live once you face death. Once we accept that you only live once. And I also love the saying, you only die once, you live every single day.
I love that. That's a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
That's a paradigm shift because I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. I actually no, you are. Charlie, the manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I just came across him like this past weekend, and his story was so transformational in the way that, hey man, if you wake up today, you're on a winning streak. You
Yeah.
won. Because
Yeah.
imagine that, like, so, like, and I think 2020 has been such a great reminder. And I'm going to ask you about this too, about like the COVID situation has been such a great reminder of how short life is, or no, how imminent death can be. But the fact that you said, oh, you only die once, but you live every day, man, bro, this is hitting me. This is hitting me. Wow, that's
Good.
great. Um, Now for you, my question is, what does it mean to live? What does it mean for a person to live?
That's a good question. That's a tough question.
Well, and I mean, and I think it's not more of like the general for each and every person because it's different. But I mean, for Brett, what does it mean for you to live?
For me to live, man, that's just human connection, brother. What we're doing right now, man, conversing, expanding consciousness, taking a step back and realizing that if none of us really know what's going on, then why don't we all help each other out? You identify your strengths and weaknesses. I identify my strengths and my weaknesses, and together we grow. It's love, man. It's harmony. It's understanding that every single day we wake up is a miracle. You can view it as a blessing. To go out and feel the sunshine, for me, that's life, man. To feel the sun on my skin, to breathe air, to meditate, to do all the beautiful things that we can do that don't require anything. It doesn't cost
Mm,
anything to go out and just be appreciative of the sun, and to, give someone a hug, to tell someone, hey, I love you, man. I care about you. That's what makes me feel alive.
mm, that's good. That's amazing, man. That is so good. And with that, you being able to have that human connection, we're now in a time where everything is kind of digitalized. Everything is like so well, I mean, we've been forced to quarantine. We've been forced to be in a point of time where it's kind of hard for us to connect. And especially like now we're moving. When I look at this time, I'm thinking, oh shoot, this is like kind of Black Mirror and Wally happening.
That's
you know,
facts, bro. That's
you know,
facts.
you got AI coming up. Like, you see, I'm not sure. I was in LA a couple months ago and I saw like the Amazon trash spot, and I'm like, wow, Bezos is like the guy like that's in the movie. And then also like you were kind of living in an alternate reality where you got the country that has two people running. It kind of reminds me of that Black Mirror episode of like that cartoon that was running for president, and people were taking him seriously. And I'm like, whoa. Again, I'm sorry to go on that little tangent, but
You're good.
the idea of connection seems to be lost. And why do you feel like it's so important for us to continue to connect? And how are you connecting with other people the best way that you can?
Well, I do my best to not let exterior circumstances affect me, because there's
Mm,
still plenty of people in my life who are not living in a fearful state and are seeing the bigger picture and know that if tomorrow's never promised, then no matter what's going on, we really should connect. So even though it may not be ideal for us to connect over this call or this podcast as it would be to link up in person and have that human connection, we're still connecting. So we have to use the tools to our advantage. And yeah, man, I mean, I do my best to not let everything going on affect me. And it can be tough at times, but to continue to live life the way I did prior to COVID. In fact, I live it more so. I live less out of quarantine. I've been outside of my house more during quarantine than I have before, because it made me realize that, you can't be afraid. You just got to go out and live your life, and whatever happens, happens. Accept it.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know when most people were like saying, and I think about, like the you saying that, I know a lot of people be like, "Oh my God, he's not going to quarantine. Like this guy is selfish. He's talking about that. Whatever happens, happens." I think about that guy that's like in Miami saying, "Yeah, but if I get COVID, I get COVID. Whatever happens, happens." But I know for you, that's not what you're saying. You're saying that, hey, yes, we're in this moment of quarantine, but if you look at the facts, your immune system is going to continue to be boosted if you continue to go outside, taking your vitamin C, being able to exercise. Yes, exercise, the precautionary notion. You're not going over like, yeah, man, let's go have a party, whatever. But you're
Right.
still being very mindful and being very careful, but understanding that sometimes what we see in this reality of phones and the news and fear mongering is not what it really is.
100%. And not only that, but I mean, it may be controversial to say, but for me personally, I would rather live and not live in a state of fear than quote unquote live and be suppressed and have to, live in this apartment. If I'm just stuck in this apartment, that's not living for me. That's not feeling the sunshine, you know? So I would rather take my chances. And yeah, I'm not going around getting in people's faces, obviously, but I'm respecting people's views and their beliefs, but I would hope that they would respect mine as well. And if, I choose to go outside and not be ruled by that fear, I'd rather, take a risk and say, okay, there is a chance that something could happen to me, but at least go out living life, as
Mhm.
opposed to extend my life expectancy, but not really be living, being stuck inside.
Mm. Let that sit. I'm letting that sit one. And you said something very, very vital, especially in the time where we're living in so divided of how respecting other people's views. Like this whole purpose of this was I want people from all walks of life. I've interviewed criminals, I've interviewed millionaires, I've interviewed famous people, I've interviewed not famous people, my friends, my fears, LGBTQ, whatever, all people, just to be able to to talk. And that's really good how you said that you are able to respect other people's views, man. Um, of course, we're on the eve of the election. I know this is kind of like a big question. Um, how do you stay in tuned of being able to respect people's views when the world outside is trying to tell us, no, I can't, I'm not going to listen to you. I don't care about what you say. How are you able to do that?
I have a three strikes you're out rule. So I do my best to talk to people and I'll ask them, right? And if they hit me three times and they're going to say, no, 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 this is the way it is, then I let them do them. And I don't really surround myself with those types of people. I would rather surround myself with people who are going to listen to my ideology and my philosophy on life and my viewpoints. And then I can listen to theirs and then we can converse. And then I'll probably learn something and they'll probably learn something. And then we've become more evolved human beings. But if people are truly stuck in their ways, I believe that if they don't want the help, they don't want to expand consciousness, then they have to, do their own thing. They have to learn it for themselves. And you can never force something upon somebody, no matter how good your evidence is, no matter how many facts you have. You're not going to be able to get through to someone if they don't have an open mind. Someone has to be willing to listen for you to be heard.
And there's
So
not a lot of that.
there's not. But at the same time, we focus on the fact that there's not a lot of that. But right here, and most people listening to this podcast are very open-minded people, right? I mean,
Right.
you're forming a community of people who understand equality and come from all walks of life and realize that, hey, it's not all about me, it's more about us, and we all are one. The more you surround yourself with those people, the more those people come into your life. Like you were talking about in the beginning, if we're electromagnetic field and I say everybody I come into contact to, they just seem to be really open-minded, all of a sudden I start coming into contact with open-minded people all the time. So I think it's a matter of finding those people and surrounding yourself with those people. Because I always tell my clients, we only have a few things that we can really control. And I believe one of the most important things that we control is who we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
And based on who you choose to surround yourself with really has a huge role to play in how your life turns out.
And talking about that, before you were able to come to this level of expanding your consciousness and your awareness, who were the type of people that you did surround yourself with before you're transitioning to the type of people that you're surrounding yourself with now?
Surface level people who were also looking for external sources of happiness, people who wanted to escape their reality instead of face it. Really just surface level people, man. Other people who wanted to escape their reality so we could escape our reality together.
Bro, I don't know why, but the movie Requiem of a Dream is like hitting me when you are explaining your story. I'm not sure have you seen that movie
I
with Jared
haven't
Leto?
actually. I haven't.
Dude, it's a very powerful movie. I had a friend who put me on back in like middle school, and I think that was one of the first movies that Jared Leto really acted in. But this idea of trying to escape the reality that is set in front of us, man. Why do you feel like people are trying to do that?
Because it's easy. I mean, you think about the easiest way to be quote unquote happy is escape your reality, right? If you don't have to face it, if you don't have to dive deep and say, what am I doing wrong? And, take responsibility and accountability for the way that your life looks, that's the easiest way to do it. And it's sad to say, and as someone who's, gone down that route of abusing Xanax and different medications and stuff like that, I think Western society doesn't want to get to the root of the problem. They just want to cover it up. Like if you look at any sort of medicine in Western society, it does not get to the root problem or try to solve the root problem. It solves the symptoms of the problem. So if you solve the symptoms of the problem, yeah, you're going to feel better temporarily. And then you're just going to come back to square one. But also, I don't think it's a lot of people's fault. Once they hear this, once they understand this and they say, okay, yeah, I need to take accountability, then yes, it's your fault. But if you grow up like I did and you have no idea and you're having all of the media put certain views into your head of what happiness is, and that if you're depressed, you just take a medication that has a million more side effects that you need more medication for. Like, you're going to think, oh, that's the solution. Like, that's your brain is so susceptible and so malleable. The human brain itself is just, it just gets imprinted with whatever we put into it. And when we're growing up, we don't have control of what we put into our mind. That's that's our parents, that's our environment, that's the things we see around us. So if you're a little kid and you see a bunch of people in the rat race working a 9-to-5 job that are taking antidepressants to, suppress certain emotions, then you're going to think that, oh, that's the solution. And it's through no fault of your own. You're just a product of your environment. And so I think that's why people do it, because they're unaware that they lack self-awareness, and because it's easier. I knew what I was doing was wrong when I was abusing Xanax, but it was just one more time, man, just one more bar. I'll just drink on this medication a little bit more because I knew I felt good during the time.
Wow. And of course, that can go into either that in itself is a rabbit hole of how the pharmaceutical industry, it continues to use advertising as a way to continue to manipulate other people. And, what is the best, the medicinal industry is a $1 billion industry. And of course, people do need to be healed, but if everybody was healed, nobody would go to the doctors, nobody would buy these medicines. I remember a couple of weeks ago watching a report of how one of the CEOs of this company, who makes an annual of $13 million, who was upcharging the price for elderly people for their medication over the past 10 years.
Jeez.
And because the higher that he was able to put it, he would get a bonus.
Money.
That's wild.
Money. I believe that money only like people say money is the root of all evil, and I'd probably disagree with that. I think money amplifies what type of person you are. It shows your true colors. So if you get a lot of money and you're looking for happiness in money, right? And you're using it to escape your reality, buy things externally outside of you, then it's going to, throw you down a spiral. But if you take money and you use it to help other people or create experiences and you use it on real stuff, then it's the complete opposite side of the spectrum. But sometimes money can blind people. And I think that's a big cause of a lot of our problems, especially in the pharmaceutical industry. They're not looking out for people's well-being. They just say that and they're after money. Unfortunately, it's sad to say, but a lot of doctors out there are not looking out for people's best interest. They're looking out for their own pockets.
Right. And, one of my mentors, he told me like even the paper money's not even money. It's fake. It's fiat. The real money, this currency is one, real wealth is one, your health, your time with your family, the joy that you have, your well-being, and then your livelihood. But also like the real money is actually gold. Sorry, not sorry. But if you're chasing after that paper, which is not backed up by anything right now, but of course we've been conditioned.
But check this out. Now we're going away from paper currency. Stores are, coin shortage, this and that. Your money's all electronic now. So for the people who didn't think that money was fake before, even more so now, it's all an illusion,
Man.
I think once you realize that, though, you can then use those tools and you have a better understanding or a better grasp on it. And then you can use it for your benefit and for other people's overall benefit. But as long as you're, not aware of those things, it makes it really tough. And you just follow in the footsteps of everybody around you. And if those people aren't, people that you want to live like, then we all know what happens.
Yeah. And you mentioned about the rat race. Did you have a chance? Did you graduate or did you go to college?
I graduated high school. I never went to college. Just for me personally, it wasn't the route for me. I think with college, you have to really decide what you want to do with life and if college is going to benefit you. For a lot of people, it won't benefit them. But there are also a lot of people that it will benefit them. But you have to ask yourself, what do you really want to do in life? Sometimes, like, if you're just going to college to go to college, I don't think that's the correct approach. But if you're going
Right.
to college because you want to get a degree in something that you need to have a degree in, then absolutely go to college.
Right. Right. And I think COVID-19 has really showed that. Has showed how they're like, oh shoot, man, like it's just kind of shook everybody up. And my next question for you is like, how did the COVID-19 pandemic affect you? Like what type of how did you pivot and what type of response did you have during this time?
Well, what's wild is I believe that reality is all perception. I believe everything is really our own perception. So we can view it as, a blessing or a curse. And sometimes it's both. But when COVID hit, I was selling cars, and I've been doing Happy Gang for a little over 2 years now, and, growing my business and helping spread that positivity onto others. And I actually took the full leap into full-time entrepreneurship when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So, for me, it boosted me. It helped me grow and explore and figure out life so much more. But I realized that I was either going to let it control me, and I was going to be a victim of my circumstances, or I was going to use my circumstances in whatever way, shape, or form to benefit me and others.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that for a lot of people, of course, everybody was saying 2020 is my year, 2020 vision. Like when it comes to vision, or like when it comes to plant medicine such as ayahuasca or any of that nature, like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, it's going to help me. Like, no, like the very first reaction is going to be something that is going to hit you like, oh my gosh, I did not even know what this stuff is going to, what is this? What's
yeah,
happening? What the
yes,
heck is going on? Most people when they think clearing the vision is going to be something like so supreme, so like yay, spirituality is like you have to go through some trials and tribulations, and then from the outside of it is like where you're going to get the real picture, where all the shedding of the stuff that is unnecessary, or stuff that was holding you down, is going to propel you to that next level of like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be.
absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned like ayahuasca and psychedelics, because I always say that psychedelics will never let you escape your reality. They'll only make you face it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like Western medicine, they escape it, right? And people have this idea of psychedelics that like, oh, everything is going to be all beautiful. But what it really does is it makes you go deep inside yourself and realize what you're doing and what you have to work on. Are you familiar with Carl Jung?
Yes, I am.
So he has, the term the shadow. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
very important because, and sometimes people may be under the impression that I'm always happy go lucky. I'm a high energy person. I am a very happy person, very positive, but only by accepting my shadow, through diving deep into the negative or the bad, understanding what's really going on and why are we doing certain things. And then comes the growth, because those like ayahuasca and, certain plant medicines that we have been using, throughout ancient times, through all of civilization, they really help us grow and internalize what's really going on. And it has to get, worse before it gets better. It's the yin and yang. It's the balance. There
Mm-hmm.
cannot be light without dark.
Darkness.
The darkness is what makes us appreciate the light. And that's how you can find the positive in the darkness, is realize that it's for your greater good. It's there to help you grow, and it's there to help you find out what this life is all about and why we're here, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. And that is so good because that's actually what my next question is going to be because, most people like us, whenever we're all about preaching positivity or mindset or whatever, motivation, inspiration, and positivity always get a bad rap because some people who have manipulated, have used it in order to get dollars, have been a life coach. Like, why do I need a life coach? So, most life coaches are like, hey, man, come join my program. I'm going to solve whatever. And then some people have been hurt by these life coaches because they just taken their money. And then after that, they're like, oh, deal with your money, whatever. Um, what do you say to people that are cynical about the positivity that we always emit, or the positivity and the mindset of like, hey, like this is who we are, this is what we're trying to do, this is what we're trying to build. Because oftentimes it really does get a bad rap. Like, I know some people be like, oh my,
Yeah.
because there is toxic positivity where it's like, oh my gosh, everything's happy, I'm happy all the time, and you're trying to escape like all the bad things. But then there's actually a real genuine joy and appreciation and like lifelong and fulfillment of your circumstances and your being.
I don't try to spend too much time convincing the cynics otherwise.
Yeah.
I used to, for sure. I'm like, no, you don't understand, man. Life is so great. It's amazing. Let me tell you. But what I've realized is for some people, it's not always, their time to see things in a certain light. And, whatever you believe in reincarnation, this lifetime, this period of time, maybe it's just not their time and they're there to learn something. But for the cynics and for the people who have maybe been taken advantage of because of a life coach, I genuinely have compassion and empathy for, and feel bad for, because it's quite sad. In my own personal experience, though, what I've realized is that most people who have invested in a program or in a life coach and haven't experienced results have been cynical of these people from the get-go. There, not to say that there aren't people out there who are abusing these things and not looking at things for the overall greater good of humanity, but most of the time, the people want to doubt it, so they say that it doesn't work. I mean, I personally have a coach. I'm not the all-knowing being who's here to, give you all the wisdom. I have a coach, and I've been through therapy before, and I just take the different things that have worked for me and want to help other people with those tools. And one of the biggest things that has helped me was a coach, because if you find someone who's genuine, and I think it's pretty easy to tell when someone's genuine. You can use your intuition and tell if they're in it for the right things, and you can go off of their vibration. They will help you, but you have to also hold yourself accountable. And if a coach tells you to do something and then you try it once and it doesn't work, and then you just rule it off, and then you want to talk crap on them, well, of course, anybody can do that with anything, But my clients that I've worked with personally that have experienced results, if you had a one-on-one conversation with them, people might change their mind. But again, I'm not here to convert the cynics. You know what I mean? I'm here to help people who want my help, who see value in the things that I can bring. And I'm not for everybody. You know what I mean? If I do free strategy sessions for anybody who's interested in working with me. And there might be a time where I say, hey, you know what? I think that so-and-so would probably be better for you, or I think that maybe you should watch this, or maybe, hey, a therapist would be better for you. But my biggest thing is that I struggled with when I went through like therapy and counseling, and it can be good at times. I felt like I was getting all my frustrations out, and I was ranting and letting it all out, and it felt good. And my therapist or counselor was an amazing listener, but I didn't get any of the constructive criticism or the next step. I was like, okay, like what now? Like, what do I do now? So more so than me being someone who's going to change your life, I'm going to help you change your own life. You're going to help yourself change your own life. I'm just going to show you a few things, or maybe ask you some questions and look at things in a way that you haven't looked at them before. And I know I'm kind of rambling here, but there's one other thing that I wanted to mention. And I was told this by one of my coaches. He says, imagine that you go out into a forest and you have a mentor, a therapist, and a coach. Okay. When you get out into the forest and you're stuck in the forest and you're looking to get back to civilization, the therapist is around the campfire with you, and he says, tell me, how do you feel about, being out in this forest, being stuck and being lost? And you're like, man, it really sucks. I want to get out. It's just, and you list off all these different complaints and why it sucks so bad, right? And you feel good. You're sitting around the campfire, you vent it out.
Yeah.
And a mentor says, look, this is what you're going to do. Okay. You're going to stack some wood. You're going to do this, that, and the other. And that's how you're going to get out of the forest. And a coach says, come on, let's climb this tree, and climb the tree together. And you get to the top of that tree and you look out, and he says, how are we going to get out of this forest? What are we going to do? And you work together as a team, and you find a way out of the forest.
Wow. That's good. That is really good. I love the way that's how you were able to answer all of that. And again, I was listening to Joe Rogan's episode with Jesse Itzler,
Oh, love
entrepreneur,
Jesse
author.
Itzler.
Bro, love Jesse, man. Well, I love the persona, the personality, because most people, most of the times, like the way that I love the public persona, because most people get twisted of the public persona and the person. And that's why we got to put a little bit of boundaries. But I love what he represents and what he's shown each and every interview that I watched and listened to. But Joe Rogan said something like this, man. Like, for a long time, I tried to fix people. Like, I could admit I tried to fix people and try to say, like, yo, man, life is not all crappy or whatever. But at that moment, you can't. And then again, you change the people that you surround yourself with. Not trying to get yourself in a bubble, but you got to understand that there's so many different variations of levels and vibrations and whatever. If you want to continue to stay in that vibration or that mindset of positivity, that mindset of continued growth, not positivity where it's just going to be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like, no, you're around authentic, real, genuine people that are going to continue to push each other to be able to see the good in life, to be able to see the spirituality, see the sense of, hey, man, like, this is what we're going to go through. This is how we're going to work it out. This is how we're going to continue to build for the life that we have that is not promised, but the way that we can live live every day, because we're only going to die once. That's when you find that formula. That's when you find, like, oh shoot, this change in the perception of reality.
Yes. Yes. And I love what you said about Joe Rogan and trying to fix people, because, earlier in my life, I found myself doing the same thing. And I realized that nobody really needs fixing. Nobody's broken.
Yeah.
You just need different tools. And sometimes people don't want help. And you can't help someone if they don't want help. If you have experience on a podcast and you give me insight and you say, hey, Brett, this is what you should do for your podcast, man, I really think you'd level up and you'd be able to do some great things. And I'm like, no, dude, I've got it figured out. Okay. I know what I'm doing in the podcast. No matter what you tell me, you're not going to be able to help me.
Yeah.
So sometimes people, they don't want help, and that's okay. But you have to focus on helping the people who feel like they could use some insight, or they could use some help, or they want to try a different approach. They want someone to hold them accountable, and sometimes people they don't want that. They want to go at it alone, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's on their own journey. You know what I mean?
Right. 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 So good, man. So this question, I know, of course, I bet you asked if you're happy, but and I think this question, but it was, again, the happiness meter. So if you were to take everything, your current situation in life, where you are right now, um, like, you put it in a blender, and you were just able to mush from finance to spiritual, love life, relationship, all that, and you open it up, what would you rank your level of happiness from 1 to 10? 1 being it's the worst, I'm about to boom, jump off a building, to 10, Dalai Lama level of happiness, like I'm at peace. Um, what would you rank your level of happiness?
I would rank it a 9. And the reason why is because I believe that we can always get better. And that's not negative. It's not saying that. It's just that we can always do a little bit more. Life is exponential. It always gets better. I believe we always get happier the more we learn. So I don't think we ever really reach a 10, until death, really, until we depart from our physical bodies. And that's just kind of my own take on it. But yeah.
That's good. That's good. Because, most adults, like, when Jesse asked this question, there was like a presentation around with people, like Wall Street bankers or whatever. Yeah, like it was like 7, 5, 4,
Jeez.
3, 6. I'm like, dang, man. Dang.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's sad, man.
But we're going to continue to find a way, man.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to find a
Absolutely.
way. So I want to wrap this podcast up, man. I want to be respectful of your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking and chopping it up with you, man. I think
It's
that's
been
you have such
awesome.
a great and unique perspective, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
These last questions are kind of like the big legacy wisdom questions that I always ask my guest. And my first question would be, what are 3 things that you would tell to your 21-year-old self?
I would really just say 3 words: empathy, forgiveness, acceptance. And the reason why is because there's just certain things that we can't change. We can only change, how we view them, but we can't change what's happened. And there's a quote that says, when you're anxious, you're living in the future. When you're depressed, you're living in the past. When you're at peace, you're living in the moment. And I think we've all experienced the times when we're not thinking about anything and we're just so in love with the moment and living in the moment that everything just seems to come into harmony. And, we access that divine and everything seems to fall into place. And I just think it's so true. If you have empathy for others and you can understand where they're coming from, you can forgive yourself for the things you've done and others for the things they've done. And then you can accept what is. And once you accept things for what they are, then you can change them.
Wow. You gonna write a book one day?
Absolutely, man. That's definitely on the to-do list. That's definitely
Yeah, bro.
I just published, so I haven't really published it, but I've got it. If anybody wants it, an anxiety cheat sheet that I've put together. It's a little article, like 8 pages long, that goes into some mindfulness techniques and some things you can do to combat that anxiety. And I've got a guided meditation as well. So those are the first steps, but eventually, yes, absolutely, I'll write a book.
Oh yeah, bro. Definitely feel like you're gonna be on that. Our big inspiration, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Deepak Chopra. I really do see that for you. Headed up, like, you doing it so authentically and so you, man. So, now my second question is, what would you like to see change in the United States?
More unity, less division, no matter what it is. You know what I mean? There's really only one race. Everybody wants to talk about races. There's only one race. It's the human race.
Right.
And no matter what it is, realize that everybody is doing the absolute best with the information they have. So just love, more unity, no more division. Whether you're an anti-masker or a masker, respect each other's views and focus on the similarities as opposed to the differences, and just do whatever you can to unify with more people and less division. To sum it up, less division is what I'd like to see.
Now, my last question for you, man, is, what do you want your legacy to be?
I'm going to steal a quote from David Gibson. He says, the goal has never been to become somebody who's known, but someone who is worth knowing. Meaning, I don't care if I reach 1 million people or 1 billion people or 5 people. I just want those people that I do reach to have a remembrance of me. I want to leave a good impression, not because I care what they think, but I just want them to be happy with the relationship that they had with me.
That's amazing, man. And this is my last segment of the show. Me as a believer, and also just putting a great image, positivity out there. And I think you resonate with this. Words are powerful. So this is the segment of Speak Life segment. My favorite segment of the show, where I just get a chance to speak life over my guests, because death and life can come from the tongue. So here we go.
Hey, you're breaking up really bad, though. You might want to fix that mic a little bit. It's kind of fuzzy.
Can you hear me now?
It's still pretty fuzzy. It might just be on my end, but I just wanted to make sure.
Thanks for that. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Good.
Yeah. It's the Speak Life segment. And this is a segment where I just have a chance to speak life over my guest, because words are powerful, man. So, Mr. Brett Bond, I just want to say, first off and foremost, man, your energy is infectious and you are a light. I just want to say thank you so much, because I've done research. I've watched all your videos, man. And I just want to say, first off, keep on going and keep on doing and continue to get better, bro. just the potential, not even potential, but who you are right now and the trajectory that you're going, man. It is such a pleasure and it's such an amazing thing that you're doing to continue to help guide and teach people about the power of what they have within. From the way that you continue to help people mold in lives and be able to help them change and rewire their minds to see that there's so much good in the world despite all the darkness, despite the media trying to take people down, despite all the pain and suffering that your people have done. And you're doing it in a way that's like saying, like, no, don't forget the pain. Don't forget that. Acknowledge it. Be with it. See it. Feel for it. But know that once you're able to do that, to accept it and continue to move forward, because we can't change what's already done, but we can change the way that we continue to move forward in life. And the way of you being able to show, be so vulnerable and sharing your story, your testimony of, yeah, man, I used to be that. That's just proof and saying that, you know what, no matter what, each and every day that your life can continue to change. So I want to say thank you so much for your presence. Thank you so much for your impact and how you're creating so many things. I know you touched me. I told you from the get go. I love what you're doing, man. But I know that the people that you're touching and you're changing their lives, man, that is something invaluable. And I just want to say, man, I'm super grateful for all the things that you've done and all the things that you're doing. Super grateful for the impact that you're creating. And I just want to wish you nothing but love and positivity and more amazing blessings. And that you'll continue to live this way. That I don't like when people say don't change. Keep on evolving and keep on changing for the better for the people around you and the life that you're going to continue to live, man. Nothing but love, man. I love you, man, because you are an amazing person. You're my brother in Christ, but most importantly, because of who and your impact that you're creating. So I just want to say thank you, man, for just being on the show. Thank you for everything.
I love you too, brother. That was humbling. Thank you. That means a lot. I'm so honored to be on the show and glad to have met you. And yeah, that left me speechless, man. I appreciate everything you just said. It means a lot.
Nah, bro, it's true. Like, and I think we live in a world that doesn't too many times we only want to give our flowers after a person is gone. And it's like, why? What stopped you from doing it now? Was it pride? Was it ego? Oh, you thought because you're gonna take each and every time, just like, oh yeah, I'll see them tomorrow. Nah, man. And I definitely throughout my life, because I faced similar situations of like facing death, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I'm going to let people know that I love them. I'm gonna give them their flowers and their credits too. Not credit like, okay, yeah, good job, but like, no, genuinely from an authentic place, like, hey, man, I see what you're doing. Or, hey, man, keep on going. Let me know how I can be a resource. Hey, man, I want to let you know that I want to give you your flowers every day I can, because too often that we're missing that. And what you put out will come back in, right? So,
Absolutely, man. So true.
So to end the show, where can the people find you at? Where can people follow you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can follow me on Instagram. That's my main platform where I post every single day, pretty much Monday through Friday. It's Happy Gang Lifestyle. And then you can also check me out on my website and tune into my podcast as well that I started recently at happygangcoaching.com. You can book a free strategy session with me if you're interested in what I have to offer, or want to see if we'd be a good fit, or if there's any sort of insight that I could give you. You can check me out there, and no obligation, no pressure.
Man, amazing. Everyone, hope you had a great time. Hope you go check out his stuff. He's doing some amazing things. Hope you enjoy the weekend and enjoy the week. We are out.